Welcome to the award-winning RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcasting. It is award-winning indeed. Thank you to the Fantasy Sports Writers Association for once again honoring our podcast with the best podcast all sports category this year, narrowly beating out the pickleball podcast that Ken, Shannon, and I also do.
From the retirement community in Coral Gables, Florida.
It's the second time our show has won the award, hence why we say award winning at the beginning of every episode. Now it feels a little more real and less like a bit that we say, but results were announced yesterday. We're thrilled to win again. And shout out to everybody who won an award. You know, I know like Adam Stock won Fantasy Basketball Regular of the Year. Plenty of other people who are affiliated with RotoWire won awards this year. So go check out the Fantasy Sports Writers Association, the FSWA's Twitter feed to see all the winners. They have all their Twitter feeds on there, so you can follow all these people individually. But thank you again to the FSWA.
I think we had top hockey writer and top soccer writer. Is that right?
I believe so.
That's correct. Yeah. It was a big day for RotoWire.
This award-winning podcast is brought to you by us. We're so good we can sponsor ourselves. RotoWire.com/pod for a free look behind our paywall. We are also sponsored by Edge Boost and PoolGenius. With that out of the way, it is February 28th, 2025. Alex Barutha here with Shannon McEwen and Ken K-Train Kreitz.
All aboard!
Last night, Steph Curry exploded for 56 points, like a 121-115 in Orlando after Orlando got out to a really hot start to the game, actually, and I think kind of lit a fire under Curry. But over the past 5 games, which are all wins for Golden State, Curry's averaging about 30 points a game with 5 assists, 5 threes, 1.2 steals, 54% from the field, 96% from the line.
Not bad.
Yeah. Last night he went 16 of 25, which included 12 of 19 from 3 and 12 of 12 from the free throw. I mean, really just one of the best games of his career. Jimmy Butler didn't do much, only had 5 points on 1 of 7 shooting, but it didn't need him to. Paolo Banchero had 41 points in the loss. What do you take away from this game?
Well, for giggles, first of all, go to the highlights to see the 3-quarter end of first half heave that Curry drained, nothing but net. I mean, it was Peyton Pritchard-like. He was doing his best fast PP impersonation. It's nice to see Curry get some recognition. But, guys, it's just gorgeous. And, you know, hey, kudos to the Warriors. The Butler move is looking pretty good right now. I mean, they're not going to like that, you know, the end of that contract with Jimmy, but while Jimmy's happy, Jimmy's good. And it kind of makes sense. You got these super aging assets on the Warriors. Why not go for it and just know that 2-3 years from now it could be terrible? But Steph Curry's a first ballot Hall of Famer. You got to be all in.
Yes, sir. Yeah, they're 5th in offense and defense. In February.
They've defensively, especially, they've been really impressive since Butler. You know, Podziemski played 32 minutes. That's a good takeaway. 8 and 7 for 4 rebounds, two blocks. The 32 minutes is a big part. That's holding. He's been locked in as a starter since Butler was acquired. Moses Moody also locked in as a starter. He played 25 minutes. 10 points, 1 rebound, not as much upside with Moody and minutes that haven't been as plentiful for him as they have for Podziemski. Quentin Post, just one note here. Quentin Post actually started the second half over Moody. And he had a solid game, 18 points, 7 of 9 from downtown. Yeah, I think that was primarily just to counter some of the Magic size. And that was probably matchup based. So I would still expect Moody to start the next game for the Warriors.
Pods and Butler leading the Warriors in assists last night, too, with 7 each. But, you know, I think I could probably get 5 assists just throwing it to Curry.
Yep.
Butler does force them, though. It probably opens up a little space for Mr. Curry as well. You can't just leave Butler like you could have Moses Moody.
Yeah. Shannon, well, let's talk about Moses Brown.
The big news.
Yeah, tons of Moseses. Mosai? I don't know. Moses Brown with a double-double in Mavs win at Charlotte. 20 points, 11 rebounds, 3 steals, 2 blocks in over 31 minutes. Dallas is missing PJ Washington. Dwight Powell played 16 minutes, but we've established for many years now that he doesn't count. You got Derek Lively's out, Anthony Davis is out, and Garland's out. Yeah, or sorry, Gafford. Gafford's out as well. So big opportunity for Moses. He started at center for the Mavericks, which was, I believe, his first start of the season. 25-year-old journeyman. He's been a favorite of the pod in past years. Dallas is his 9th NBA team in over 6 seasons. Will the 7-2 UCLA product stick with the Mavs?
31 minutes was his season high. Hadn't played more than 12 all season. I hope he keeps a roster spot, but I imagine as soon as PJ Washington's healthy, his big minutes are done. But
I'll talk more. I'll talk more about Moses Brown later in the show.
Ooh, Alex, give us your thoughts.
He's on a 10-day contract. I don't even know if they can technically sign someone to a standard contract. So they might actually keep filtering these guys as 10 days. But if he can get a second 10-day, like if we're talking about him as a streaming option, then obviously it's completely fine because they need a center. I will say this is completely random fact. I was wondering, you mentioned Moses Brown has been on 9 teams. On Real GM, there's a feature which is who are the teammates he's played the most games with and who are the opponents that he's faced the most. I would have never guessed this game. The teammate that Moses Brown has played his most games with, Theo Maledon. Remember that? Remember that guy?
I remember that guy.
He must have been traded a few times with Maledon to match salary or something. Yeah, Theo.
Amazing. All right, Ken, let's take us to someone who's been a little bit more relevant lately in fantasy.
Cam Thomas.
Over the past few years, at least.
That's true. Cam Thomas set to return tonight for your Brooklyn Nets. Tonight, Friday, that is, versus Portland. Always good to come back versus Portland. The high-scoring guard has missed 24 games due to a hamstring issue. Guys, do the Nets play Cam Thomas every night rest of season? Are they in full tank mode?
I think both of those things could be true. They could play him every night, and they could be in full tank mode. I assume he'll sit back-to-backs. But what do you think, Shannon?
Yeah, it's tough to say. I'm very interested to see what the Nets do with their starting 5. Their rotation tonight's probably going to be quite a bit wonky. Like, I expect Cam Thomas to start, but he's probably going to have limited minutes given the lengthy time he was on the shelf with this injury. Have they mentioned a minutes cap for him tonight or anything like that? Probably not. Check on that. But I mean, I would be surprised if he plays more than like 25, 28 minutes in his first game back.
I was going to say, does this mark the end of the Keon Johnson run in Brooklyn?
Well, that's why we have to see how the rotation plays out because it impacts a lot of guys. I mean, D'Angelo Russell is still out. We've got a Nets player who we're going to highlight during the waiver wire section for today's show. So we'll see. I mean, Cam Johnson's healthy right now.
Playing well.
Right. Zaire Williams has been playing well. Keon Johnson, Zaire Williams basically been locked into the starting lineup for the Nets. Which one of those two is going to part ways from the starting 5 and return to a bench spot for Cam Thomas? And then Killian Hayes, who has been spot starting at point guard for the team. Killian Hayes, he's out there. He's playing.
Yep.
Good
He's employed. He is
good
employed.
To see the southpaw back on the court, but I would expect he's probably the first guy that gets moved back to the bench. So something to keep an eye on at least.
Maybe back to Long Island. Oh, all right. Oh, yes. Time for questions. And we got some nice comments really early. As always, we have to start with our first question, which comes from Matt. First of all, praise, which we love. Wanted to say thanks to RotoWire for all the shows and answering questions. Helped them secure a playoff spot. Our pleasure, Matt. Oh, doesn't even have a question. All right, let's just pat ourselves on the back. Matt, you're one of the reasons we won a trophy, baby. All right, let's go to an actual question. Here we go. It's from Mr. C. Got to pick one to drop. Jabari Smith or Bol Bol?
Wow. I can't believe we're here. I gotta be honest. Mr. C, who asked this question, you're completely right. When you put in the second half of this is between floor and ceiling, is what you're asking about. And obviously Bol Bol is the high ceiling individual. Jabari Smith is the high floor guy. I think this depends on where you are in the standings. I think if you're really gunning for a playoff spot and this is like do or die, I think you just have to go for the upside. But if you're very secure in your playoff standings or roto or whatever, I think you can just hang on to Smith.
Yeah, it is a tough one. I consider this one a coin flip. Smith has not necessarily been that productive since he's returned from injury. In 4 games back, he's averaged 10 points, 7.3 rebounds, 1 assist, and basically nothing else. But he has played 33 minutes per game in those 4 outings. 2 of them have been off the bench, 2 of them as a starter. But the heavy minutes makes me want to lean towards Jabari. I would push back against the floor because I think Jabari's floor is just as low as Bol Bol's.
Good point.
Given the way his inconsistencies this season, I hesitantly go with Jabari, but Bol Bol is a good streaming option right now.
I worry about the Rockets kind of flip-flopping between Smith and Tari Eason, alternating, that giving Eason nights off because of his leg issue. I don't know. Minutes. It's a roller coaster out there. Next question though. Thoughts on cutting Drew Holiday?
Do it.
I think you can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, the Celtics are going to be giving him plenty of rest to make sure he's healthy for the playoffs. That shoulder injury has not gone away, and he's option 5 on that starting 5 as far as offense goes. You could even argue option 6 behind Peyton Pritchard, frankly, on the offensive end of things. He's there. He's basically a 3 and D wing now. He's not. D White runs the offense, gets the better assist numbers. So yeah, unless you're in like a 20 teamer or 16 teamer, I think you can certainly drop Mr. Holiday. Sorry, that's my Boston fandom jumping.
Yeah, Aaron.
No,
Aaron,
that's
your
what
team.
you're here for.
No. Aaron, your team's 14-1. You're not 14-1 because of Drew Holiday. So I think it's safe to drop him and pick up the hot streaming pick for the week.
Okay. From Matt. Oh, I was offered J-Dub and Desmond Bain for my Jalen Green and RJ Barrett 10-team Yahoo Points League. I accepted the trade, but which side do you prefer?
I think J-Dub and Bain. I'd be a little bit worried about Barrett getting some again a little bit of a sore back down the stretch for these Toronto Raptors and just not playing very much. But depends when your league ends. But I do like the J-Dub and Bain side.
Same. J-Dub and Bain for me.
Mr. Firenuts back. Mr. Firenuts now back. Wants to say congratulations. Now everyone knows what I've always known. Why can't the Portland Trailblazers start Shaedon Sharpe?
That's a good question.
Highlights don't equal winning, Mr. Firenuts.
Oh no, he's saying the Nets center. By the way, we're talking about.
I'm sorry.
He clarified at the very. You jumped the gun on that one.
I did jump the gun. Yeah, sorry.
But neither of them are starting.
We're gonna talk about both Sharpes. We're going to talk about both Sharpes during our waiver wire period. But I mean, Claxton, the funny thing, gigantic game from Day'Ron Sharpe the other night in a spot start. Claxton was suspended because he received too many texts. So Sharpe had a gigantic game, but the one and everyone's rushing out to pick up Sharpe, and I get it. It makes sense. But one thing that has gone unsaid is that Claxton's actually playing like his best stretch of the season prior to that 1-game suspension. Over the past 6 games, he's averaging 12.2 points, 8 rebounds, 1.3 steals, and 3.3 blocks. 3.3 blocks. That's your Wemby replacement right there. So I don't think they can start Day'Ron over Claxton. Claxton's he was coming. I can't do it. I can't do it if I'm the Nets. I still believe in Claxton. Sharpe's an interesting player too. and I want to see him get more minutes, but they both deserve playing time.
Yep. All right, let's move on. Some nice words from Aaron. Thank you, Mr. Van Buren. But thoughts on John Collins, gentlemen? He's a shutdown risk, some back issues, questionable, I think, for tonight for the Jazz, the tanking Jazz. Alex, thoughts on John Collins' possible shutdown?
Yes. Everybody in their mid to late 20s, if not older, on this Utah Jazz team qualifies as a shutdown risk. We have a great if you go on like John Collins' player page on RotoWire, we have if you scroll down a bit, we have a great Jazz rotation minutes breakdown thing where it's sort of a heat map of who's been seeing minutes. It thing looks like a game of Minesweeper. Like it's just X's everywhere. Guys are seeing 40 minutes, they're seeing 0 minutes. So yeah, he is definitely a shutdown risk, as is Markkanen, as are a lot of guys on this team.
Nice. Bryce Sensabaugh owners rejoicing throughout the land, all 5 of them. Is Gafford a hold, gentlemen, rest of season? Speaking of shut down or already shut down, maybe.
What do you think, Shannon? I mean, to me, this is entirely based on when your playoffs are.
Yeah, I mean, right now we've got Gafford's estimated return date is April 2nd. To me, that's a drop. Anyone who that return puts him at maybe like 5 or 6 games at most that he would return for. And if he's coming back from a lengthy injury, he's not going to play all of those games, or at the very least, he's not going to play a full complement of minutes for the handful of games he'll have left on the schedule. That basically gives him a week of regular season play if that timeline holds. So he is a drop for me in all formats.
That would be 6 games. I just double checked. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Last question, gentlemen. Anthony Simons or Mark Williams in a 9-category 10-teamer?
This is tough.
I think Mark Williams' agent would like to chime in here.
I think we all made the same face upon being asked this question, which is why it's a good question. Yeah, I mean, obviously the concern here with Mark Williams is just, well, honestly, for both of these guys, there's a little bit of shutdown risk for both of them. The Hornets probably more so because we know there's something we allegedly know there's something wrong with Mark Williams. But he's had a great couple games. I mean, he just popped for 26 and 16 against the Dallas Mavericks. He had 12 and 12 before that in only 25 minutes. And Simons, look, I am a Simons fantasy manager. I grabbed him, in the 80 to 100 range in a few leagues this year just for the points. And he's great just for the points, but like he is as up and down as they come. Like, so
9-category field goal. He's a field goal percentage drain at 42.5% from the field. So you might be surprised if you need a little improvement in your field goal percentage standing. Not playing Simons might give you a surprise boost because that's poor shooting on a lot of volume.
Yep. I mean, this decision's really going to come down to categorical need for me. I also think games played is a significant category to consider here. There's been a lot of behind the scenes stuff with Mark Williams, obviously, but he's only played 7 games in the past month. Simons has played 12 games in the past month. On a per game basis, Williams is about a top 75 player over that stretch, whereas Simons is right around 95 in the mid 90s. If you need scoring, you need threes, you need that more assist, go with Simons. If you need rebounds and blocks more and field goal percentage, go with Mark Williams.
All right, that's it for our fan feedback section. Alex, tell us about our good friends at PoolGenius.
Want to win more in your golf, March Madness, and football pools? PoolGenius gives you data-driven picks and strategies to outsmart the competition. With over a decade of analytics and historical data, PoolGenius is the only site dedicated exclusively to helping people win sports pools, with PoolGenius users winning 3 times more often than expected. RotoWire listeners get exclusive offers. Visit PoolGenius.com/RotoWire for up to 55% off. That's like a discount on a discount. 5% off, 50%. 4-day free trial also available. PoolGenius.com/RotoWire.
That's PoolGenius.com/RotoWire. Alex, take us to the waiver wire.
The waiver wire. So it's a very busy week. It's a very busy couple of weeks, actually. I was trying to do some digging for like what teams are the best for daily leagues. Are there any teams with like 5 games in 7 days? No, it's just all packed. It's all packed. So this upcoming week, 12 of the teams have 3 games. Everybody else has 4 games. So really good weeks upcoming for streaming if you are falling behind in your standings and need that production. I'm going to kick things off with a guy we talked about earlier, Day'Ron Sharpe of the Brooklyn Nets, 14% rostered on Yahoo. Nick Claxton was suspended for Wednesday's game because he is addicted to flagrant fouls and complaining and suspensions and technicals. Sharpe got the start, put up 25 points, 15 boards, 5 assists, 3 blocks, and 2 steals in 31 minutes. The 31 minutes are nice because this is only the 4th time in Sharpe's entire career that he's played over 30 minutes. So a little bit of an indication that maybe Jordi Fernandez thinks he can handle some more minutes. Now, as Shannon mentioned earlier when we were talking about this team, Claxton's playing pretty well. And it's not like Claxton is playing horribly like he was earlier in the season and he should only be playing 18 minutes a game and he should be the backup and Sharpe should start. I can't really make that argument. Personally, I like Sharpe more, but it doesn't really matter what I think. I will say on the season, the whole season, he's ranked 168th in 8-cat in 17 minutes per game, which is a ridiculous rate. So if you're in a 16-team league, you can certainly just pick him up and roster him. And even if nothing happens the rest of the season, it's decent production.
It's part of their tanking. If Nick Claxton has a hangnail or just feels a little ill, he might get some nights off, right? Just to rotate the tanking efforts.
Yeah, this is definitely a better move for people in daily moves leagues or daily lineup leagues. And Brooklyn only has 3 games next week, so I understand there's going to be a lot of people who are like, I need to stream guys in. I can't take 3 games, with a guy who I'm not sure is going to start. But if you're looking longer term, I think Sharpe is certainly an option.
Brooklyn's going to be really interesting. Shannon was talking about it earlier. Cam Thomas back. It's going to be really interesting what their rotation turns into.
Yeah. What are the odds that what are the chances Sharpe and Claxton can log minutes on the floor together? Is that possible? I mean, Noah Clowney's out. They're pretty shallow in the front court.
Clowney. Easy to forget about Clowney. I can try to look up how many minutes these guys have played together very quickly. But I was wondering about this because they sometimes shoot threes, like not very often. Like they're both averaging like less than half a 3 per game. Let me see. They've played
Sharpe's up to 1-3 a game. Sharpe's up to 1-3 a game. Still not much, but better than Claxton.
They have played 10 total minutes on the court together. Let's see here. There we go.
Okay. Hey, Brooklyn, now's the time to experiment. Twin Towers. Let's give it a try.
It's like Mobley and Jared Allen.
There we go. All right. I have 3 sneaky, dull suggestions this week. I'm going to start with Aaron Wiggins of your Oklahoma City Thunder. Shout out DJ Trainer. Wiggins is rostered in 25% of Yahoo leagues, only 14% of ESPN leagues. OKC has 4 games this week, and Wiggins is on a heater since February 1st. That's 12 games. He's averaged 19.2 points, 5 boards, 1.3 stocks, and almost 3 threes a game while shooting a delicious 54% from the field and 91% from the charity stripe. Wiggins is a sharpshooter. You may have noticed OKC didn't make any trade deadline deals. They trust Wiggins as their instant offense off the bench guy. If you need threes, if you need percentage help, if you need points, Wiggins is a sneaky, easy, cheap, fab move.
Nice. I like that rec, Ken. My first suggestion for the week is Zach Collins, forward center for the Chicago Bulls. 13% rostered on Yahoo, 3% rostered on ESPN. Nikola Vucevic has been sidelined for the past 2 games with a right calf strain.
Probably 3, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll get there. I'm almost there. That's opened up playing time for the recently acquired Zach Collins, who came to Chicago right around the trade deadline. Collins has started back-to-back games for the Bulls, averaging 20 points, 11 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 1.5 threes, and 1.5 steals in 33 minutes per game. His second spot start And it was an absolutely monster game, 26, 17, and 6 against the Clippers. And that's a team that usually does a good job containing opposing big men. Vooch is doubtful for Friday's game against the Raptors, while Jalen Smith is questionable. He remains in concussion protocol. Collins is a solid streaming option until the Bulls front court returns to full strength. As long as Vooch is out, essentially, I do think Jalen Smith will eat into some of that production from Collins once he's back in the mix. But Collins is an interesting streamer while Vooch is out.
Yeah, wait, I was looking this up. It's Collins also has not shared the court with Vucevic or Jalen Smith. Yeah. I think they could do that, which is bizarre because they are basically playing 5 point guards and then a center. But yeah, you have to, given the situation, like Shannon said, it's certainly worth picking up Collins.
It's an interesting. The Bulls are in a very interesting spot too. They might make the play-in by default.
They really might.
Yeah,
it's funny.
I don't think they want to, but they're probably going to. So, if they somehow drop down in the standings as well, I think that would open up the door for a Vooch shutdown, but it doesn't look like that'll happen.
You got Nets, Sixers, Raptors, Hornets, Wizards. One of those terrible teams would actually have to want to make the plan. I don't think any of them do. And the Nets are only 1.5 back of the Bulls, but it's going to be like every team stepping backwards.
Bulls should have traded Vooch for Embiid if they wanted to swap spots in the standings. I don't know why they didn't just pull the trigger on that. My second recommendation, Stephon Castle, 33% rostered. So obviously very easy to recommend. And Victory Lap is someone who's like Castle all year to be like, yeah, 22, 7, 5, and 3 from Castle the other night. Pick him up. Because he averaged 6, 2, and 1 in the 3 games beforehand. However, this team is done. Like, they took 2 bad losses to the Pelicans. They lost to Shannon's good Detroit team, and they lost to the Houston Rockets, who are also good. But they're losing by an average of 13 points per game over their past 4. They got that like bounce, the dead cat bounce win against Phoenix when they first lost Wembanyama, which everybody gets the dead cat bounce win against the Phoenix Suns these days. But a big part of my argument is this. Obviously, they're not playing well. Their season's done. We know that De'Aaron Fox needs surgery at some point. They're kind of dancing around whether it's going to be in the offseason or at the end of this season. They could just do it. They could just do it now. Chris Paul is old. Obviously, we know this. So I think there's an opportunity potentially coming. No Fox. CP3 is not playing that much. That's Stephon Castle's offense then. So this is one you pick up now, especially in a shallow league because he's 33% roster. It's not like he's out there for people in deep leagues, but this could be an interesting like mid to late March thing for Stephon Castle.
Absolutely. I would argue like Castle. I would argue Castle is already when you look at the Spurs, they're building blocks for the future. Like Castle's number 3 for him as far as priority goes. You've got Wemby, you've got Fox, and then Castle's number 3. He like they're looking at him like he's going to be their long-term number 3 option. It's just crazy athlete. As everyone saw during the All-Star break, he is absolutely amazing. I've loved watching him play, and I agree. I think they're gonna uncork him here down the stretch.
That is an exciting, speculative, high upside suggestion. I have a very boring, low upside, but steady suggestion. Complete opposite. Nice roster filler. Aaron Nesmith of your Indiana Pacers. He's rostered in only 16% of Yahoo leagues. He has started the last 6 games for Indiana. And over those last 4 games, he's put up more than 15 points, 5.5 rebounds, almost 2.5 threes, with great percentages of 55% from the field and hasn't missed a free throw. Indiana does have just 3 games next week, but he is a nice, safe, steady streaming option. That also gets decent stocks when he's seeing a lot of minutes for the Pacers. But admittedly, boring.
Yeah, I mean, we saw this last year from Nesmith, right? He was sort of a fringe 12-team guy playing 28 minutes a game, definitely a category league guy. So if he can just get back to doing that, someone worth streaming it in a lot of leagues.
Yeah, he was like last year's Kamara.
Yeah.
All right. My second recommendation of the week is Bol Bol, forward center for the Phoenix Suns. 29% roster on Yahoo, 11% on ESPN. After a 4-game stint as a reserve, Bol Bol found himself back in the Suns starting lineup for the past 2 games. He scored a career high 23 points in one of those 2 starts, and he's averaged 19 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 30 minutes per over those 2 games. Bol Bol's, it's tough to handle. I get a good handle on what to do with him. I just say while he's starting, you stream him in. He will provide value if he's playing 30 minutes. How long that'll last is to be determined. But the Suns aren't going anywhere. Speaking of the teams not going anywhere, they're dangerously close to playing their way out of the play-in. 3.5 games back right now. So their season could be done in the coming weeks, and Bol Bol could benefit from that.
The Suns are the worst defense in the NBA in February, giving up 124 points per 100 possessions. That is worse than New York is second worst, but then Chicago, Philadelphia, Sacramento, Atlanta, New Orleans, they're worse defense than the Charlotte Hornets. As are a decent amount of teams.
What do you think Beal and Durant's motivation is to play defense rest of the season? 0 or 1%?
I think it's about 0. Yeah. Well, Beal didn't play last night, so maybe
is Budenholzer coach of this team next year?
Yeah,
are they going to blame him?
I
don't think it's his fault, but are they going to blame him? Somebody's got to take the axe, right? I don't know.
I don't think it's his fault, but yes, you're right. I mean, when it comes down to underperforming teams, it's always the coach first, then it's the role players, then it's maybe the general manager, then it's the stars. But yeah. Who's up? Am I up? No,
yeah.
Yes, I'm up. My long shot pick, it had to be done. Kelly Olynyk of the New Orleans Pelicans.
The clinic.
11% rostered. I'm actually going to offer an alternate suggestion because people who have been listening to this podcast for almost a decade are probably sick of me talking about Olynyk. But you know what? Coach Willie Green, I had to retweet this. I almost never tweet anymore. Coach Willie Green said that he wanted to put the ball in Kelly Olynyk's hands and unlock him. Those are the only
He's
words.
He's a cheat code, baby.
Those are the only words that I needed to hear to consider Kelly Olynyk a must roster player. The past 2 games for Olynyk, total 20 points, 17 boards, 5 assists, a steal and a block. Sat out yesterday for rest on the back-to-back. He was, he was handling the ball so much. He just needed to take a break and let Zion, some development guy named Zion Williamson, take the reins. I don't understand why this is happening. I don't necessarily believe it will continue happening through late March or anything. But he's just like in pick it up and find out territory. Like you have no other options other than to just see what happens. Again, my alternate suggestion is a guy who is Kelly Olynyk's clone, which is Kyle Filipowski. 12% rostered in Utah. We talked about John Collins' as shutdown risk, Markkanen's. They're all shutdown risk in Utah. But Filipowski, when he starts and plays decent minutes, he puts up good numbers. So if you're done, you're just done with Olynyk, but you want someone in that ilk, Kyle Filipowski is also a stash option.
Why doesn't he get more blocks? Filipowski.
Who? Which one? Filipowski?
Filipowski. He's 6'11". Per 36, he gets 0.3 blocks. Per 36, he's a center.
That's great because he's like
Olynyk. He's more of a point guard in a center's body.
Yeah. All right, well, time for my long shot. I'm just repeating a long shot because no one's picking up, and he's continued to play really well for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Ty Jerome of Cleveland. He's rostered in only 21% of Yahoo leagues. Look, he scored 19-plus points in each of the last 3 games. Karis LeVert's in Atlanta. That freed up a lot of backcourt minutes and shots for Jerome. I think they made that trade knowing they wanted to get Jerome more minutes. And Cleveland's got 4 games next week. Great time to stream Ty Jerome. Just go do it. Don't ask why. Just do it and thank me later.
I can't believe how good he is, man.
People got to be most improved player. I know he's not a name, so he's probably not going to win it, but I think he's most improved player.
Is he not?
Partly because he did almost absolutely nothing last year while injured and just not good.
Do you think he should be? You're a biased Celtics fan. I assume you're going to think Pritchard should be 6th man of the year over.
Jerome's taken a better leap. I mean, go look at his woeful career stats before this year for Ty Jerome.
I know.
I would go Ty Jerome. If Fast PP wins it, I of course will be happy. But
Jerome is not even on the most improved player odds right now on our page.
Criminal.
Sad state of the league.
All right.
Go ahead,
Our final free agent recommendation for the week. Moses Brown, center for the Dallas Mavericks. 1% rostered on Yahoo. I believe he's 0% rostered on ESPN. As mentioned earlier in the show, Brown started at center for the Mavs in Thursday's win over the Hornets. He finished with 20 points, 11 rebounds, 3 steals, and 2 blocks in 31 minutes. Anthony Davis, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, all dealing with injuries. Dwight Powell is Dwight Powell. Washington, I could very easily see Brown over as long as he's in the starting lineup for the Mavs and playing close to 30 minutes. It would be very easy to see him at least hold some value for fantasy leagues, especially with rebounds and blocks. He's bounced around the league a ton the past handful of seasons, as we went over earlier. But his career per 36 numbers, pretty solid. 16.4 points per game, 15 rebounds, 1.1 steals, 1.5 blocks. I believe he's worth a stream in most 12-team leagues for as long as he sticks in the starting lineup for the Mavs.
More blocks than Filipowski.
That is for sure. I bet Derek White has more blocks in the past 5 games.
Oh, hands down. No doubt about it. Please. All right, Shannon.
Cole Anthony there are legit point guards who had more blocks, who had 3 or 4 blocks last night. I mean, Cole Anthony had 3 or 4 blocks last night.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, Shannon, tell us about our good friends at Edge Boost.
Have you ever had your credit card declined or had to call your bank at 3 a.m. in Las Vegas? Edge Boost is the first consumer-facing online bank dedicated to the gaming industry. There are numerous benefits to using Edge Boost. $250K per day in debit deposits, unlimited withdrawals, cashback on sports betting, DFS sweeps. Deposit $25, get $25. 100% approval for gaming activity. Financial segmentation for discretion and responsible gaming. Compatible today for prediction markets, iCasino, DFS, sports betting, lottery, brick and mortar, casinos, horse racing, and sweeps. No transaction reviews or account freezes. Visit edgeboost.bet today and use promo code ROTOPOD, ROTOPOD. That's ROTOPOD. Edgeboost.bet. Visit now.
Talk about some DFS. It is a 10-game slate. Highest over under, New York at Memphis. 244.5. Blistering over under. Ken is, people can't see this, just rapidly filling out an injury report in our Google Doc like he's some sort of intern working for us. Bradley Beal is out tonight. There are a ton of guys questionable tonight. So I don't want to go through and list them all. There are teams on back-to-backs. A million guys are questionable. So we're going to have to talk around some of these guys, do some what-ifs here. But Shannon, is there any particular game that you are targeting or that just your eyes laser focused to immediately?
Tonight, it's not as much about targeting individual games. You have some games that have high over unders. Atlanta and OKC's at 244.5. That is a 12.5 point spread though. So it is in Atlanta. If Atlanta keeps that game competitive, it will be very interesting, and there will be a lot of high fantasy point totals. I do love Chet Holmgren on DraftKings. He is only $7,200, and he's coming off his best game of the season. Just an absolute monster effort earlier this week. Oh, let me pull it up. Apologies. But 7,200, we have that puts Chet as like a top 20 value for our projections for tonight's slate. His game against Brooklyn earlier this week, 32 minutes, which is the highest amount of minutes he's played since returning from injury. And he finished with 22 points, 17 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks. This is the Chet Holmgren that you drafted in the second or third round this season. He's 63.4 fantasy points. Yeah, anyone who's under $8,000 on DraftKings and can pop off for 60, they're a good option. So I love me some Chet tonight. And then we've got some of these injury replacements that have been discussed already this show. Zach Collins, Vooch most likely out. Got to assume Zach Collins gets another start. He's at $5,500 for the Bulls. They're at home. They're playing Toronto. I like that matchup for Zach Collins. Hard for me to avoid putting him in the lineup. The other Sharpe, Shaden Sharpe. We talked De'Ron earlier, but Shaden Sharpe's coming off a gigantic game, and Denny Advia is questionable for tonight's slate. He only played 5 minutes in his return to Washington on Wednesday night. And I would, Sharpe, in response to Advia leaving that game early, Sharpe ended up playing heavy minutes, started the second half. I'm assuming Advia is out tonight. And if that is the case, I love some Shaden Sharpe at 5,400 for DraftKings.
Yeah, we mentioned him in the waiver wire section, but Bol Bol, this is a rematch of a game that just happened yesterday. Phoenix versus New Orleans. Bol Bol is 5,000, his salary. Put up 29 DraftKings points against against New Orleans the other night. Then had 39 against Memphis. Again, we know this is a complete upside play, but his salary's 5,000, so you could fit him in any lineup. He's probably still more of a GPP guy rather than like a cash game where you want the floor. Another guy I will say, we talked about Memphis versus the Knicks. Desmond Bane is questionable for tonight, so keep an eye on that. But this is a good opportunity for him going against the Knicks with this 240 plus over under. He's 7,400 on DraftKings. Very high floor lately. Hits 40 all the time. Maybe not like a pure ceiling guy. Like his chances of hitting 55 fantasy points pretty low, but just the perfect kind of cash game option in a high over under situation.
Yeah, just two other guys I want to mention. We joked about Killian Hayes earlier, but he has started a couple games in a row for the Nets. If he receives one more start tonight, 4,300 on DraftKings, hard to avoid. If he's not in the starting lineup, I'm not going to bother even considering Hayes. He might be too risky either way, but he is worth consideration. There are some easy swap out options at his salary. You've got guys like Davion Mitchell, who very inconsistent, but he's starting for the Heat, seeing lots of minutes since being traded to Miami. And the final guy, mainly because I have discussed him in probably 80% of the DFS segments in the past 2 or 3 months. Dyson Daniels is only $6,700 on DraftKings. This man basically hits close to 40 fantasy points every night since Jalen Johnson went down. He's like a walking 40-point fantasy player.
Yes.
And I can't avoid that. His salary on DraftKings and the fact that it hasn't gone up yet is just confounding to me. He's at least $1,000 more expensive on other platforms. So I'm going to plug him in at 6,700 until that increases.
Well, Shannon, your Pistons are on the slate tonight, going up against the Denver Nuggets. Nuggets are on the second half of a back-to-back. Just got smoked by the Milwaukee Bucks last night. General thoughts on what the Pistons are up to lately. I feel like we need your Pistons corner.
24-11 in the past 35. 8-0 is obviously the recent news. 19-8, I believe, since January 1st. This is a real basketball team. They are coming for the 4th seed in the East, and there are very few teams that this Pistons team will be afraid of come playoff time. Postseason basketball is back, baby. I can't wait.
Ken, why don't you get in here? Because the Celtics are also on the slate tonight. They play the Cavaliers, but you also played the Detroit Pistons.
I know, and Shannon was talking, rightfully so, a lot of smack during that Pistons win, a win he called, and actually I was tempted to agree with because Celtics are the end of a road trip and frankly looking soft. And they got bullied. They got outright bullied at home. The bad boys of Detroit showed up, played to the crowd. I thought Joe Mazzulla said it best. You used to hear Celtic cheers at the Palace the last few years. And that stadium was all in for this Pistons team this year. All in on that game. It was actually quite nice to see. Those fans deserve a legit squad. You really did hear past season Celtic cheers in that empty arena when they were miserable.
Are you sure they weren't cheering for like free Little Caesars or something? And you're just like projecting.
They 100% were cheering for whatever was on the Jumbotron. As someone who went to Little Caesars Arena in the middle of their 30-game losing streak last year, no, it was full, and it was all Pistons fans. Joe Mazzulla can kick rocks.
You try to compliment Shannon, and he just gets crabby about it, Jeez.
You come in here with your biased coastal elite media narrative. Everyone's cheering for the Celtics in Little Caesars Arena.
Well, look, let me turn this back on you, Alex.
Okay.
Bucks are 5th. Pistons are 6th. Pacers are 4th, only separated by a game.
Mm-hmm.
Who of these three squads gets the fourth ranking in the East?
I don't really trust the Bucks. I just don't. They got a great win last night. They stepped up. Jokic looked like that he actually absorbed the weight that Doncic just lost. Was really lazy last night. But the Bucks are terrible on the road. They're a horrible road team. Pistons are firing on all cylinders. Pacers are playing really well. I would not trust the Bucks to be the 4 seed. It wouldn't surprise me if it was after New York, if it was Detroit, Indiana, Milwaukee.
I don't believe the most of basketball watching folks in America realize this, but you absolutely want a first round matchup between the Pacers and the Pistons. There will be violence in that 7-game series. That series, there will be violence. They hate each other. Absolutely. Those two teams absolutely hate each other.
Could we see the sequel to the Brawl in the Palace? What do they call it? What was the name?
Oh, dude, it's hilarious. I didn't connect it to that it's the same two teams. But you go watch the past 2 games these teams played this season. They absolutely hate each other, and I'm dead serious. There will be violence. Isaiah Stewart will be ejected from at least one game in that series.
That is big on the facial swipe too. He's always going for the ball, which is great. Gets the steals, but he's big on the claw a guy's face accidentally, and that pisses guys off, understandably.
This is the kind of Central Division rivalry, Midwestern grit that the media won't talk about. Ken, you're like, oh, Celtics are 42-17. You know what? Every team in the Central Division is making the playoffs, making the play-in this year.
Yeah.
Cleveland, Indiana, Milwaukee, Detroit, Chicago. This is a gauntlet. And they're sick of seeing each other. Chicago, they're in. Philly sucks. You're racking up easy wins against Philly and Toronto. It's embarrassing. All right, let's move on to the segment, even though we already did. I think it's time for your old man rant, Ken.
Arg! Damn you, Bol Bol, you foul temptress, you. Bol Bol's glorious combination of block shots, made 3-pointers, and sheer athletic prowess seduce me every year in thinking this is his season. I waste free agent money every season whenever he goes on a run just to cut him a week or 2 later, and then I'll be good again when the Suns have injuries. I can't resist him. Of course, I was a huge fan of Washington Bullet legend Manute Bol, the 7'6" god of the paint. Please go to YouTube and watch highlights of Manute Bol blocking shots and draining threes. Charles Barkley was making fun of him during his Sixers run. It's hysterical. Anyway, Suns, you have lightning in a bottle, and nothing to play for. In the name of Minute, let Bol Bol start.
Award winning.
He's a siren. Yeah, we won. At least you know AI didn't write that. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of AI slop going around. It's not.
That's
this segment will never.
Human.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Thank you everybody for joining us on the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Hey, rotowire.com/pod for a free look behind our paywall. It's baseball season. There's a ton of great fantastic content on the baseball side that is behind the paywall. Lots of people comment. Those are always like some of our most commented articles. I go on there sometimes. There's a whole discussions happening in the comments. If you're drafting fantasy baseball and you want the best content out there, we have it. I will also mention the RotoWire Picks and Props app.
Oh yeah.
Go into your Android device, your iPhone, whatever you got, your flip phone, and just type in RotoWire into your app store, and you should see the Picks and Props app. It's a fantastic page. Our tech team did a lot of work on that. It's fantastic.
Slick interface, really easy to use. Love it.
Slick interface. Your hands will just
fly
Bol Bol over.
Also, I'll plug. Hey, check out the new RotoWire Prop Points show on VSiN, 2:00 Eastern, with our Jeff Erickson and Nick Whalen hosting. It's my job to post clips of that show on RotoWire. And Alex, you've made a few fantastic appearances. Thank you.
The RotoWire, Ken, you haven't contributed to the RotoWire Best Bets article in a while. But I think
you're doing sales work. I got to my
pretty well. I think I'm 9-1 in my past 10. I hit a LeBron.
Is your uncle just throwing down big cash? I know he's a big fan of the Alex Barutha.
He hasn't texted me, but that might be like that's like a what do you call it? Superstition.
Yes.
Yeah. So I hit a LeBron over 0.5 blocks. I'm just getting cocky.
Shannon, how come you don't contribute to the bets? You'd be good at that.
No, I'm good. I live in Wisconsin, so it makes it tough. I'm good. I'll avoid that for now. Like you, I have other things to do.
I know. You and I are in the same real job problem. Yeah.
Whoa. All right.
Real's not the right word. Boring, depressing, not fun job. How about that?
Yes. Okay.
Non-content. Yeah.
Non-content. Listen to Ken. If you make content, it's not a real job. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
It's just more fun.
No, I know. Well, what quote do you have for us, Ken?
Yeah, I'm rooting the end here. I'm sorry. Let's go to ESPN, where Brian Wernher said this about Steph Curry since the Warriors acquired Jimmy Butler. Quote, in the 8 games since Butler got there, Curry has been unlocked. 31 points a game, the best in the league in that stretch, and he's shooting 44% from 3, end quote. Thank you, Wendy. Attention passengers. This 3-car award-winning fantasy train wreck has hit the end of the line.